Throughout the history of the NBA, there have been draft classes that produced multiple all-time great players. The most memorable draft class is the 2003 draft that gave us LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Carmelo Anthony. And there are tons of other draft classes that have produced either the same level of talent or even greater. So in today's video, we're going to rank the top 10 draft classes in NBA history. And if you like NBA videos like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more NBA content. And if you have a different ranking, comment below and tell me what you think the best draft class of all time is. I'm Nate the Hooper, and let's get right to the video. First up, at number 10 is the 1970 NBA Draft. This is the oldest draft class in this video, and is full of a bunch of great but underappreciated players. It was very deep and included 12 different All-Stars. Some of the best players from this draft were Bob Lanier, Pete Maravich, Dave Cowens, Nate Archibald, Calvin Murphy, Rudy Tomjanovich, Dan Issel, Charlie Scott, and Randy Smith. This draft class is full of underappreciated stars that had very productive careers. In fact, this draft class produced 44 total All-Star appearances. This draft class also has one MVP award when Dave Cowens won MVP in 1973. Cowens is one of the most underrated players in NBA history, and on top of his MVP award, he was also an 8-time All-Star, 2-time champion, and 3-time All-Defense member. Bob Lanier is also an underappreciated star from this draft class, who was an 8-time All-Star and averaged 20 points and 10 rebounds for his career. This draft also features players who led the league in scoring for a season, such as Pete Maravich and Nate Archibald. Next up, at number 9, is the 1999 NBA Draft. This draft really had no bona fide superstars, but it was extremely deep and full of all-stars that had great NBA careers. This draft included Manu Ginobili, Baron Davis, Shawn Marion, Richard Hamilton, Ron Artest, Steve Francis, Lamar Odom, Elton Brand, Andrei Kirilenko, Jason Terry, Wally Szczerbiak, and Andre Miller. Whew! Like some of the other draft classes in this video, this one had a plethora of underrated or forgotten players. This class accounted for 19 total All-Star appearances and 9 All-Star players. This class is not too top-heavy as it does not have a clear-cut best player, with the best player probably being Shawn Marion or Manu Ginobili. This draft class also did not produce an MVP, but it did have a Defensive Player of the Year in Ron Artest. It also has players that played big roles on championship teams, such as Richard Hamilton, Jason Terry, and Manu Ginobili. At number 8 is the 2011 NBA Draft. This is the most recent draft class in this video, and many of the players from it are still in their primes. This draft included Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Jimmy Butler, Kemba Walker, Isaiah Thomas, Nikola Vucevic, Tobias Harris, and Bojan Bogdanovic. This draft has produced 27 All-Star appearances so far, but no MVPs. The best player from this draft is Kawhi Leonard, who raised his ranking among the all-time greats when he led the Raptors to a championship and won Finals MVP. This draft is full of dynamic scorers who have had great playoff performances, such as Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, and Isaiah Thomas. It also has lockdown defenders in Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Butler. This is a deep draft class, and they might even be ranked higher in the future as players like Kawhi Leonard pick up even more titles and All-Star appearances. Next, for number 7, is the 1998 NBA Draft. This draft produced some NBA legends and also had some other good complementary players. The 1998 draft included Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Pierce, Vince Carter, Antoine Jamison, Rashard Lewis, Mike Bibby, Jason Williams, and Larry Hughes. This draft also technically had Brad Miller, even though he went undrafted. This draft class registered 38 total All-Star appearances, 14 of which came from Dirk Nowitzki. It also has one MVP, which also came from Dirk Nowitzki. This draft class has a very good top 3 players in Dirk, Paul Pierce, and Vince Carter. Dirk and Paul Pierce both won championships and Finals MVPs, and Vince Carter was an 8-time All-Star with one of the longest careers in NBA history. This draft also featured 2 severely underrated combo forwards in Rashard Lewis and Antoine Jamison. They each made 2 All-Star games in their careers and had multiple 20-point-per-game seasons. This draft was great, but it does not have as much depth as other draft classes in this video, which holds it back from being ranked any higher. At number 6, we have the 2009 NBA Draft. This draft class would produce some of the best superstars of the 2010s and included many players that would turn franchises around. This draft included Steph Curry, James Harden, Blake Griffin, DeMar DeRozan, Drew Holiday, Jeff Teague, and Ty Lawson. Players from this draft class have won 3 MVP awards and have had 26 All-Star appearances so far. 2 all-time greats came out of this draft in Stephen Curry and James Harden, who have both been MVPs and led the league in scoring. This draft was not extremely deep, but it did have a ton of talent in the lottery, such as Blake Griffin and DeRozan, who are consistently All-Stars. Many players in this draft class are in their primes and are still competing for titles, and should continue to add to their resumes, meaning that this draft class could potentially move up if Curry and Harden win more MVPs or rings. And at number 5 is the 1985 NBA Draft. This draft class was loaded and had plenty of Hall of Famers in it. The 1985 draft included Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, Chris Mullin, Joe Dumars, Detlef Schrempf, Charles Oakley, Terry Porter, Michael Adams, Arvydas Sabonis, Manute Bol, AC Green, and Xavier McDaniel. There was a ton of talent in this draft, and it was not top-heavy in any way, as there were 10 players who were all-stars in their careers. This draft class also accounted for 2 MVPs, both from Karl Malone, and the draft class also registered 45 career all-star appearances. This draft had some iconic players from the late 80s and the 90s, and even had 3 members of the 92 Dream Team in Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, and Chris Mullin. Joe Dumars also adds strength to this draft class since he is one of the best two-way players in NBA history. He won 2 rings with the Pistons and won Finals MVP in 1989. He also made 5 all-defensive teams while being able to score 20+ any night. On top of all the stars in this draft was rounded off by some great role players such as AC Green and Charles Oakley. Next up, for number 4, is the 1987 NBA Draft. This draft featured some of the most memorable players in NBA history and also included some underappreciated stars as well. The 1987 draft included David Robinson, Scottie Pippen, Reggie Miller, Kevin Johnson, Mark Jackson, Horace Grant, Reggie Lewis, Muggsy Bogues, and Sarunas Marciulionis. This draft had arguably 2 top 25 players in NBA history with Scottie Pippen and David Robinson, and it also had other notable Hall of Famers. This draft class also has 1 MVP award, coming from David Robinson in 1995. This draft class only had 28 career All-Star appearances, pretty low compared to some of the other draft classes. However, this draft has an impressive big 3 of David Robinson, Scottie Pippen, and Reggie Miller, which ranked them high in this video. This draft also had a budding NBA All-Star in Reggie Lewis, who unfortunately died in 1993 at the age of 27. Another strong point of this draft was Kevin Johnson, who had some great seasons with the Suns, where he averaged over 20 points and 10 assists 3 seasons in a row. At number 3, we have the 2003 NBA Draft. The 2003 draft is the most memorable draft class of the last 20 years and is regarded as one of the best drafts ever. It included LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, David West, Chris Kaman, Josh Howard, Kyle Korver, and Mo Williams. This class is historically great and is led by a top 2 player all-time in LeBron James, while having other all-time greats such as Wade and Melo. This draft class has 4 MVPs, all coming from LeBron James. The draft also had 56 total All-Star appearances, with an astonishing 4 players having more than 10 All-Star appearances, those being Wade, James, Bosh, and Anthony. The big 3 from this draft of LeBron, Bosh, and Wade also won 2 titles in Miami. But this draft class is more than just the top 4 obvious players. David West was a 2-time All-Star and had some great seasons with the Hornets and Pacers. It also features players who had solid careers and made 1 All-Star game, such as Mo Williams, Kyle Korver, and Josh Howard. And at number 2 is the 1996 NBA Draft. This draft class was absolutely stacked and had tons of all-time greats in it. The 96 draft included Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Steve Nash, Ray Allen, Peja Stojakovic, Jermaine O'Neal, Stephon Marbury, Antoine Walker, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Marcus Camby, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, and Ben Wallace, who went undrafted. This draft produced 4 MVPs that came from 3 separate players. Steve Nash had 2, Kobe Bryant had 1, and Allen Iverson had 1. This class combined for a ridiculous 68 All-Star appearances, with 18 coming from Kobe. This draft has some of the greatest and most well-known players in NBA history, such as Kobe, AI, Nash, and Ray Allen. This draft also has some all-time great defenders, such as Ben Wallace, who won 4 DPOYs, and Marcus Camby, who also has 1 DPOY. And like any other good draft class, the 1996 draft includes underappreciated stars, such as Jermaine O'Neal and Stephon Marbury. But the biggest reason that this draft class is at number 2 is Kobe Bryant. He won 5 championships, 2 finals MVPs, an MVP, made 15 All-NBA teams, and 12 All-Defensive teams. And finally, at number 1 for today's video is the 1984 draft. This draft class featured the GOAT himself, along with plenty of other Hall of Famers. The 1984 draft included Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, John Stockton, Charles Barkley, Alvin Robertson, Otis Thorpe, Kevin Willis, and Sam Perkins. Although this draft class is not as deep as the 96 draft class, it has the most talent at the top and has 2 top 10 players of all time in Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon. That is a feat that no other draft class in this video did. Players from the 1984 draft also won 7 MVPs, with 5 of those coming from Michael Jordan and the other 2 coming from Barkley and Olajuwon. This draft class had 53 All-Star appearances, and players from this draft won just about every award you could. This draft class has 8 Finals MVPs, with 6 from Jordan and 2 from Hakeem. It also has 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards, with 2 from Hakeem, 1 from Jordan, and 1 from Alvin Robertson. This class also had arguably the best passer of all time in John Stockton. Only 4 players in NBA history have ever recorded a quadruple-double, and 2 of them were from this draft class, Hakeem Olajuwon and Alvin Robertson. This draft class had everything, and I think that it is a pretty easy decision to put this draft class at number 1. There have been a ton of great draft classes in NBA history, and all of the draft classes in this video produced multiple current or future Hall of Famers. If you guys want to see me make a video about the 10 worst draft classes of all time, subscribe and comment below. Anyways, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video and want to see more NBA content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel.